All right, so I don't know what the title or description of this video is going to be before I even start shooting it, but figured I'd take you guys through my version of shooting around.
Hoop with a purpose, not just to pass the day. Every shot, every move, gotta pave your way. Don't waste time, don't just roam. Plan to work the plan, make the court your home.
Because I always say on this channel, you know, whenever I reference it, that I'm not a fan of shooting around. I feel like it's a waste of time, because people just come out here and they shoot around and there's no structure, you know. Like you don't, by shooting around, especially the longer you spend doing it, you're not making any progress, you're not getting any better, you're just wasting time. I mean, you can be having fun, and that is a useful you know, a way to use your time. It's a positive use of your time, but really that's all you get out of it. Like, you don't grow as a basketball player in terms of like skills or ability just by shooting around. So what I like to do when I do shoot around is I don't really have a game plan or like a set strategy for what I'm going to do, but when I'm in the midst of it, I do try to structure it so that there is progress being made, even though it's, you know, small compared to actually doing actual drills and workouts that are structured. But if you actually put some kind of purpose into the way you shoot around, I think you can make some kind of positive progress, more than just coming out here without any kind of purpose other than to waste time or just have a little bit of fun. So right now from the beginning, you'll see no basketball in my hand, and that's probably something I would do even if I were still young and an active player instead of retired like I am. Mostly because one of my biggest problems is it has always been throughout my career that I come out here, and in terms of from the perspective of my legs and jumping and being explosive and generating the kind of power I want to generate. Let me set a timer here so I can keep track of the time a little bit. In terms of, you know, being explosive and generating power through my legs for the rest of my body to use, a mistake I've made consistently throughout the decades is just not being strong enough, like getting lazy. So I'm not pushing, I'm not exploding as hard as I could be, because I'm just lazy, right? That was like the way it was back in my playing days. Now I'm still lazy, but it's more so because I have less explosiveness to generate because of my age, and because it hurts now. Like it hurts, and I'm stiff, and it's more difficult to be explosive. So I find myself being lazy again in this part of my basketball process because of my age, and, you know, being lazy because of stiffness and pain, instead of just, you know, being lazy because I'm not outputting the kind of energy and effort that I should be. So I start out without a basketball in my hand just to get my legs used to the jumping motion, you know, especially because I'm not a jump shooter by nature. I sort of force myself to try to be powerful when I jump, because if I just come out here without a ball and shoot like this, like, that was strong enough, but I didn't feel like, you know, I didn't have the control I should have because I didn't generate the power that I should have. So when I give myself a chance to move around the court without the ball in my hand first, it helps to wake up my body and my nervous system, so that when I come out here with a ball, you know, 10 minutes or so after warming up without a basketball, now I feel like my body is more ready to perform with the kind of power and explosiveness that I would want to have with a ball in my hand. So before I started shooting and recording, I did a little bit of a warm-up that I don't know if I'm going to include in the video or not, but the warm-up is pretty much just a few leg swings, holding onto the pole and doing some leg swings. And then I do like some kind of like, squats, assisted, squats, hanging onto the bar and squatting down, mostly just to sort of get blood flowing through my arthritic knees. I do some of those for a while. And then it was just a couple of laps around the court. And then I ran my version of a suicide just to get the blood flowing, just to get my lungs pumping. And then and then I started recording when you guys saw me shooting those threes without a ball from the top. And that's, all preparation. Something I would do even if I were an active player, but it helps so much more now that I'm not. The more I can prime my body to do basketball work, because I'm so used to not doing it anymore, the better, And that works much better for me now that I'm retired. But it's still something that I would do even if I were a newer, younger player with a fresh body, because it just helps. It just gets you, in a basketball flow and rhythm, not just physically, but mentally. It sort of, gets you into the state of being on a basketball court. And it gives you a routine, a process to go through every time you come out here. And I think that can be important as well. So usually what I would do when I start shooting around and I start running a clock, which I've already done, but I usually wouldn't start running a clock on my shooting around until I go through like what I consider my sort of pre-shoot around ritual, which would be to come out here, do all that, warming up, and then start, I start by shooting free throws. That's just what I do. It's just a routine that I developed for myself decades ago. I had this principle growing up when I was first learning the game as a teenager of like, somebody told me, if you can make a free throw, then you can make any kind of, standard shot on a basketball court. And I always found that to be, I always liked the sound of it. I've never really sat down and figured out like how true it actually is, but it at least sounds good. It makes kind of sense to me. So I always start by shooting free throws. And my whole goal is just does it feel good? Like when I make a shot like that, didn't feel good, right? It went in, but I banked it. Didn't mean to bank it. Didn't feel good. So I just shoot until it feels good. It feels proper. And when I was younger and an actual player, I was deadly at the free throw line, even though I didn't need to be because this is only recreational basketball. But I took pride in being a deadly free throw shooter. And now that I'm older, I I just don't have the kind of body control I used to have. One, because I'm severely out of practice because I'm retired, but also because, my body is just, I don't have the kind of body I used to have, I'm not basketball conditioned. And even if I were at this age, I still have all of the arthritis and, pains, stiffness that I would never have had as a young active player. So, even making free throws at this age and stage is it's frustrating because it's like nothing's more simple than shooting a free throw. When it comes to a basketball shot, it doesn't get easier than a free throw. And so when I struggle to shoot free throws, like you guys are saying, it gets frustrating very easily. But that brings me to what I always talk about in terms of psychological basketball, which is like, okay, yes, it's frustrating, but it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be enjoyable. So even though it's frustrating, it's difficult, it's harder than it should be, I'm sure I went through this same kind of process when I was starting to play basketball. And when I was starting to take free throw shooting seriously for the first time as a young teenager, I'm sure I went through the same growing pains. So when I reference on this channel, like my career has kind of come full circle, that's the kind of thing that I mean, where it's like I went from not having any skill, not having any ability, not having any fundamentals, to trying, and then, you know, going through the long process of developing skills and abilities, to, you know, reaching my peak and then having those skills and abilities degrade over time because of wear and tear, to get it to this point where, you know, I haven't been an active player for, what, 15 years or so. So, you know, now it's like full circle back to not being any good again, except for I have the skills and abilities up here, I just can't translate them to my body. But I still, you know, try to remember, like that one felt good, that's good. So I'll move on to next. What's next would be the 3-point shot, which I won't spend too much time doing. But, you know, it's like, no, I'm not any good. My abilities are completely degraded and regressed, but I can still have fun. This can still be enjoyable, even though I'm not any good anymore. So like this, you know, I don't really consider the free throw and now this 3-point shooting from the top, I don't really consider this shooting around. This is just sort of the process that I go through to get to the sort of free throw or free formed shooting around. So usually that's what I would do. I'd require myself, make a free throw, make a 3-point shot. They both have to feel good. They both did. So now this is when I can start sort of what I would consider shooting around. I always start out with, you know, simple drives to the basket. And then as long as that feels good, or, you know, at this age when I actually make it and it feels good, it feels like I actually did it correctly, then I'll move on to more, you know, free-formed kind of shooting around. So right hand, jab left, go right, that felt good. That went the way I hoped and intended it to go. Something I found at this age is going to my left is not nearly as automatic as it used to be, because I shoot with my left hand, but I am right-handed for everything else in life. So on the basketball court, my left hand is not my primary go-to hand. That felt okay, but I didn't feel like I should have had the control that I should have had. See? And, you know, it, like anybody else, new or younger, you can overthink, you know, when you're in the midst of a move. That's what I did right there. You know, and that comes from like the lack of muscle memory. You know, I used to have incredible muscle memory because this was all I did when I was a teenager and a 20-something. So now that I haven't been doing it for 15 years, that muscle memory is not there the way it used to be or the way I would like it to be. So I sort of force myself to make sure something feels good before I move on to something else, usually, especially when it comes to the sort of pre-ritual to the shooting around. That felt fine. It's not great, but it felt fine. Something I wanted to bring up was something I had to remind myself of now that I've been retired is I look down at the ground a lot, and the primary reason for that is because I have a crazy inherited eye condition where bright light affects my eyes worse than everybody else's eyes. So to, you know, combat that, I look down so I'm not looking up at the bright sun. The problem with that is, you know, I'm looking down, I'm taking my eyes off the rim, and so when I'm in the middle of my drive, I have to remember to bring my head up, actually look at the basket, you know. So I have to try to recondition and program my mind to not do that, because it's easy to look down when there's nobody out here in front of me, right? There's no competition opponent trying to stop me, so who cares where I'm looking as long as I look at the basket when I go to finish. So, and I don't like that. That's not a good way to approach it. So I got to remember to keep my head up and, you know, practice as if there was someone in front of me. Now you'll see I'm not going anywhere near full speed, full effort, because I'm not trying to push myself. You know, I don't have anything coming up where I'm trying to get better and peak for a certain kind of competition. So I'm going, you know, maybe 60% effort and speed. Because if I go, you know, I can't even make it at 60%. Imagine if I went 80, 85, 90, you know, it'd be so much worse. So it's always been my own personal philosophy that, you know, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So I'd rather do that, keep repeating until it feels good, feels better, it gets better, than to immediately come out here and go as hard as I can just to get reps up, and then the reps be terrible, and then I'm wasting time doing that. And again, it's one of those things where, like, at this age, trying to bring everything together. So it's like, okay, got to remember to, when I come off that right foot, to explode and generate enough power so that I'm not, when I'm laying the ball up with my left hand, I'm not only relying on the power of my hand and my arm to get the ball to the rim. Like, they both have to be in sync at this age, and lack of, you know, practice doing that. Like, the effort and the process of doing it sounds simple, but putting it together, you know, you young newer players know that it's not as easy or as simple as you would like it to be. So let's move on. Like, that wasn't great, but for the sake of the video, we'll move on. Let me check and make sure everything's still recording. All right, so this is where, you know, everything becomes more free-formed. What I will say before I begin is I am a mid-range shooter. So what you'll see me do a lot of is when I find myself down here by the baseline, what I'll do is I'll take the ball, throw it out to myself, come over here, simulate running a curl, which is what I used to do, which was secondary to being my pass first point guard. When I was a scorer, and in my scoring mode, it was all about shooting the mid-range jumper, and usually doing that coming off of a screen, curling off of a screen somehow. So what you'll see me do out here is I'm down by the baseline for whatever reason, catch the ball, throw it out, simulate coming off a curl, and then setting for a mid-range jumper. And because, you know, shooting is not my forte, it's not what I do, I have no real desire to practice it, because I would rather, you know, be out here playing and doing my pass first point guard duties. When I do shoot around, I will shoot a fair bit of amount of three-point shots just because I will find myself out here, but a lot of times I'll try to simulate my mid-range shooting game. So that would be the secondary way I would score as a scorer. My primary way is, you know, going off the dribble, trying to cross my defender up, create enough space, get him off balance enough so that I could then cross back over and finish at the basket. That was always my number one way to score. But, you know, you can't just only do that. You know, you can, but then you're not really nearly as well-rounded of a player as I could have been. So it's like, all right, well then I have to, you know, figure out a way to shoot the ball as well. I can't only take people off the dribble all the time. Even though I became really good at it, it's like you have to have another way to attack. You have to be multifaceted. So my number one way would be to take people off the dribble, right? And finish at the basket, which as a young player when I was intermediate, that was automatic, right? Never miss at the basket. I would punish myself, you know, by rep after rep after rep when I would miss the basket like that as an actual active player, because I wanted my layups to be automatic. If I was going to work so hard to create space between my defender and myself so that I could get to the basket, it was like, okay, once I get down here, I better finish, you know? So that would be my primary way to attack, but to be a multi-faceted kind of player, scorer, and scoring threat, I would want to have some kind of a jump shot as well. So what I'll usually do, right, in terms of shooting around, no plan, no strategy, it's just don't waste time, don't waste shots. So it's like, all right, practice, you know, get to the rim, ball up, did it feel good? It felt fine. Catch the ball here, pass out, curl, and see how that felt. Like that one felt fine, but I didn't shoot nearly as strongly or as explosively as I would have liked to. So, you know, the ball comes out here. I'm right here when I catch the rebound from that miss. It's like, okay, when I'm here, what do I do? I could shoot again, but to me, that's kind of lazy, right? If you only come out here and you're only shooting the ball, and especially if you're making more than you miss, that's kind of lazy to me, because it's like, all right, well, you're not really hustling in that point, because it doesn't take a whole lot of cardiovascular effort to only come out here and shoot jumpers. Weak, didn't even jump, right? So yeah, it's like, okay, I chase down my rebound. That forces me to, you know, work on cardio while I'm chasing the ball down. But if I just came out here and shot again, then it's like, okay, I'm kind of like, to me, that's being lazy and giving myself a break if I were just to shoot this shot. So instead, what I would do, right, I'd bring the ball back in bounds, remembering to stay purposeful, not waste time, not waste shots when I'm out here. Instead of shooting this jumper like I could, instead, envision that there's a defender right in front of me, and then I'm gonna try to take him off the dribble, right? So I'm working him, cross, he goes that way, I go this way, finish at the basket. Now, of course, that was super slow. That was like 40% effort and speed. That level of effort wouldn't work in a game, but it's a simulation, right? And to me, you know, because I'm not an active player, because I'm not trying to push myself, if I were to come out here and continue to push and push and push shot after shot, what would happen with me is I would just wear myself down so quickly that any shot I started taking within 5 minutes would severely be degraded in quality, because I would just be tired. I'd be tired, I'd be out of breath, and any shot that I would take would not have the explosiveness, the power, the control that it should have, because I wore myself out. For you newer, younger players, I say you should do some kind of mixture of both, you know, going 40% to get, you know, your movement, your footwork, your move right, you know, so that it goes and it feels the way you want it to feel. Having a mixture of that with also going as hard as you can and pushing yourself. I think the younger you are, the newer you are, the slower you should go. And then, so if you're newer and younger, I would say go slow, set your move up, get your dribble, your footwork right, you know, picture the move that you want to make, try to execute it, you know, going at a slow speed. And then if you miss, you miss, but at least you know what you did wrong and you're able to evaluate it more effectively and accurately because of how slow you went. The slower you go, the more you're able to pay attention to what you did wrong or right. Right? The faster you go, the harder it is to analyze because it happens so quickly. So the younger you are, I think the slower you should go. Now, the more progress you make towards intermediate, now it should become more pushing yourself, going fast, going hard, you know, probably, you know, more along the lines of 60, 70, 80% in terms of speed and effort and explosiveness than sort of, you know, because once you're intermediate, you don't really need to work on execution as much anymore, because now you have the requisite skills and ability to go as hard and as strong as you want. So you don't have to think so much about, am I doing this right? What am I doing? What am I gonna do? How am I doing it? Right? It leaves the door much more wider open so that you can go harder, you can be more explosive, you can push yourself. So, and the whole point of that is, when you get into the game competition, you know, pushing, going hard is so much more automatic for you than your competition, because instead of being out here and just sort of lazily shooting around and putting up shots and not really paying attention, not really trying to grow and you know, mature your basketball game, because you are, even though you're shooting around, you're doing it with purpose and you're pushing yourself at the same time physically. You know, when the game starts, you are much more well conditioned to pushing yourself and going harder than everybody else around you. But until you reach that sort of intermediate stage, the younger and newer you are, the slower I say that you should go, and the slower you should take things. So when I'm getting that rebound right there, I immediately thought, okay, what am I gonna do next? What's my next move so I'm not wasting time, I'm not wasting movement? I came back out here because I wanted to come back out here and run another layup. So, and the reason I did that is because running another layup will put me back down here by the rim, so that when I get this rebound, I can come back down here, pass back out, curl, and take that jumper. I was thinking like multiple steps ahead. You don't have to do that, you know, if you never practiced like this before, but you at least want to have an idea of like, okay, I'm here on the court. What should I be doing with this next shot, right? That's kind of the point and the problem that a lot of people have when they're shooting around, is it's just for fun. It's just to sort of say that you did something basketball related for the day, but it doesn't really have any purpose. When you're out here, think about what you're doing, think about what's probably going to happen next, and then from that, what you're going to do after that, and how is it going to benefit you. Like, I'm going to shoot this three. I'm going to estimate I'm going to miss. It's going to come off. I'm going to have to run over here to get the rebound. I'm going to chase it down, and then immediately when I chase it down, my plan is to lay it back up at the basket with my left hand, my offhand, my now weak hand. Now, it may not happen like that, but if it does, at least I have an idea of what I'm going to do and why I'm doing it and how it's going to benefit me. And here's the deal, I'm not going to actually try to miss. I'm going to try to make this, but my guess is it's going to come off far and to the left, and then I'm going to have to chase it down, like I said. So I don't want you guys to think like, oh, I'm going to miss on purpose so that I just do what I just said I was going to do. Yeah. That was not... Let's try that again. I didn't like that at all. Mostly because I got lazy with my legs, didn't generate the power that I should have, and so I overcompensated with my arms. Because I overcompensated with my arms, major break, right? It was, you might as well just say it was an air ball. That's how bad it was. Let's try again. Oh, that was harder than I thought it was gonna be. All right, so I'm just gonna lay it up anyway, even though I didn't catch it over here, because I thought it was gonna come off somewhere over here. I didn't expect for it to come off as hard as it did, but I shot it with such power to make up for the last time I shot, that when the rebound came off, it had that much power generated from the rebound, came out here, then I had to chase it down. So let's try that again and see if I can actually make it, hopefully, and then if I don't, if it'll do what I estimated it was going to do. Okay, well, I don't know where that cut off from. I don't know why my camera stopped recording, but I probably recorded like 20 minutes after you guys saw that. It was at least 10 or 15 minutes after you guys saw wherever that cut out at. So, whatever. So my point is, like, you just want to, the more you're out here and the more you sort of shoot around with a purpose, the more you'll get the idea of, you know, being able to plan ahead. You'll say, okay, I'm going to do this move or whatever it is right now. It's probably going to land me X, Y, and Z. From X, Y, and Z, I'm going to do A, B, C again, right? And you'll be able to do, you know, set the steps in motion in your mind before they happen. And the more experience you get, the more you'll find that pan out, right? Sometimes it pans out almost exactly the way you thought it was going to, you know, 2, 3, 4 even steps in a row. But even if it doesn't, it's better to have an idea of what you want to happen or what's probably going to happen instead of just sort of play after play, move after move, planning in the moment. Both is good, you know, both can be good for your game. But when you get to the point where, like, okay, you're planning something out and you're 3 shots ahead in your mind and they actually come to fruition, now you're starting to have a level of understanding for the game that most people don't, because most people don't approach shooting around like that. It doesn't sound like much just to sort of state it like that, but you'll notice it, you know, if you get to that point. The ability to predict what's going to happen next on the court is an art, and if you're really good and really talented, you don't ever have to think that way. But if you're like me, and you know, you're not relying on talent, you're relying on plan and strategy, that is a very sort of underrated ability to develop. And if you do it right, if you use it right in game and competition, it can really help to elevate your level of success out here. So something I was doing when I was just talking to myself because I didn't know the camera cut off was I was practicing finishing layups at the rim with my left hand, my offhand, saying of how, like, it's difficult, you know, not only to synchronize everything up because, you know, I want to get the footwork right, and then I want to explode at the basket the way I'm supposed to and finish in a way at the basket that actually feels good and appropriate. Doing that, being, you know, having no muscle memory anymore of doing that when it used to be automatic, is and can be very sort of frustrating. You know, not only that, but when you're doing it by yourself, just shooting around, it's easy to get sloppy because you don't have anyone guarding you, so you don't have to have that extra level of focus and concentration to protect the ball. So when I'm gathering at the basket, right, I'm probably like swinging my arms around, not protecting the ball, only thinking about, you know, how I'm going to finish at the basket. That can create bad habits when you're actually going against competition. So that's another, like, layer that you have to think about when you're out here. It's like, okay, make the move as if you were actually being guarded by somebody. For me, that means head up, as I still find myself putting my head down, and then getting the gather right so I'm still protecting the ball during my gather, and then exploding and finishing with good, proper form. So, and it's hard, right? When you don't have that, somebody trying to slap the ball out of your hand, it's easy to become sloppy. It's easy to get lazy. Which is why, you know, just playing games and playing competition is, in my opinion, better than just shooting around. But one of the values that you can, you know, try to grab and pull out of shooting around is not allowing yourself to get lazy, not allowing yourself to get sloppy. Sort of, this is all about sort of sharpening, right? Skills that you would use in a game and competition, so that when games and competition happen, because you've sharpened them so much in your shooting around, that they're razor sharp when it comes to competition, probably more so than the regular average person that just comes out here and shoots around for fun without purpose and without sort of having an objective to get better and sharpen their skills. I would say that this is embarrassing, but whatever, you know. You know what happened? I couldn't believe this actually happened. And it was continuing to happen even this week. I had multiple people on social media like DM me asking or challenging me to play them one-on-one. And they're clearly younger than I am. They're clearly active players and I'm not. It's so weird that I'm being challenged to play, you know, this generation's version of basketball, which is like 1v1, right? It's like, that, not only is that not my game, never was my game, even when I was in the prime of my career, but I have no business doing that today, especially. You know, I can barely make a layup out here by myself. And, you know, I'm being called out, like how these players are gonna beat me one-on-one. And my answer is like, of course you are, I hope you are. If you really couldn't beat this? Of course you could. You better, because if you can't, then you have a whole lot of work to do on your game, or you're just that sort of young and inexperienced. But the players that were, you know, calling me out, you know, per se, they're young active players. So it's like, I would hope that you'd be able to beat that. I was actually trying, and I barely got the ball to the rim. You know? Also, like, okay, you beat the old retired guy on his little small, minute YouTube channel. Like, what clout comes? I don't understand. I don't understand what's in it for them to beat me in a one-on-one game, you know? It's just weird. It's weird to me. And it might be weird to me just because I'm the old guy, and like when I was a player, social media didn't exist, so I would have never had the ability to challenge somebody like that. But even if I had, I don't know if I would. I guess I would have, I don't know. But that's, you know, because when I was a player, that social media didn't exist, and so calling people out like that didn't exist. It's weird to me. I don't say it's like a bad thing, it's just like, I don't know how to react to it other than, of course I would lose, you know? I would probably lose, probably, you know, be some level of embarrassment for me. And so what would be in it for me? And what would be in it for the people that are challenging me? I don't understand. You know, this is definitely not like a trash talking channel where I'm out here like, yeah, you want some of this? You want some? Come get some. It's like, no. You know, those who can do, those who can't teach. That's me. I cannot anymore. Not for a long time. And I certainly don't profuse that I can. Let's double check this camera again. Still going. It's weird, it cut off like just before half an hour. And then I was just out here by myself for like 10 or 15 minutes, not knowing. And you know, this is pretty much all there is to it. It's not complicated by any means. It's just a matter of like purpose, you know, having reasoning, planning behind what you're doing and how and why it's going to help you and help you get better. It's not just about shooting, 30-foot jumper after 30-foot jumper just to waste time and say, be able to tell people, yeah, I was on the court today putting in work. It's like, no, you weren't. You were just putting shots up without any thought, rationale, without even really trying. You were just sort of burning calories and working on a little bit of cardio. But you can still tell people, yeah, I was on the court today. I was working today on the court. It's like, no. To me, there is no better practice, for your game outside of drills and workouts. There's no better way to improve your game than to play in competition. Get out here and play pickup ball, That's the real work. That's the real sort of real-time improvement. And then if you want to actually get better, as quick as possible, build and sharpen skills and abilities, then you should be doing drills and workouts. This isn't a drill or workout channel. I've, stated that many times. I'm not interested in trying to tell or teach people how to do drills and workouts because to me it feels like homework. If it feels like homework, then for me personally, I'm just not going to want to do it, right? So I don't even try to go into the realm of drills and workouts. This is mostly a psychological mindset kind of channel that gives you advice about branches of the game that no other channel talks about. And so, it's a niche channel. It'll always be small. That's perfectly fine. Most people either don't find it, or if they do, they, dismissively ignore it. I get it. It's fine. But, for those of us who are into that psychological kind of side of basketball, the parts of basketball that nobody thinks about or takes seriously, that's just, how I like to roll, because I don't have traditional basketball talent or even, athletic talent and ability that the average player has. So I focus on the stuff that they don't. That pretty much is the bottom line. So the bottom line I just want to have for this video is like, all right, if you're going to be out here, you're going to spend time, effort, and you're going to be pushing your body while you're out here, because it's hard concrete cement, right? It's like, okay, if you're going to put that wear and tear on your body, if you're going to put in the time and the energy, then you might as well be doing actual kind of workouts and drills. If you're looking to get as good as quickly as possible. If you're going to come out here and shoot around instead, or in conjunction with also doing drills and workouts, then when you do shoot around, at least have purpose, a plan. How is this working for you? Why is it benefiting you? And how is it going to continue to make you better? Even me as a old retired player, right? It'd be easy for me to come out here and just sort of shoot around, waste time and have fun. You could make the argument that's what I should be doing, and essentially that's kind of what I am doing, because I am not pushing myself. But you don't have to push yourself physically to get better. You need to sort of realize where your strengths and weaknesses lie. And for me, there's no point in me pushing myself physically, over and over again to exhaustion, because I'm not working towards anything. My career is over. I'm not trying to elevate anything. So for me, not only is it more beneficial from a skill and ability perspective to go, 60% speed and power but it's also like, I might as well, because it's more fun. If I was out here and going as hard and as fast as I could be, wearing myself out, making myself exhausted, making it so I couldn't breathe, that wouldn't be fun, you know, because I can't get better. You know, I can maybe get slightly improved from a cardiovascular or conditioning standpoint, but you know, my body's done. You know, I can't put, it's not like I'm lazy and just not pushing because I'm mentally being lazy. It's because like my body's already reached its peak and is now in just regression no matter what I do. So if I push myself and I'm just missing, you know, and wearing myself out in the process, that wouldn't be fun. So instead, I'd rather go 40, 60% speed and explosiveness, and you know, and actually make some shots here and there. And when I do make some shots, hopefully I make them because I did things properly and thus they felt good, and not and instead of like, oh, I just got lucky, you know. And you know, the shots where I do get lucky, at least, you know, if I go 40, 60%, I'll be able to understand that I actually did get lucky and it was an actual skill or ability, and I'll understand why, because of how slow I was going. If I was going 100% speed and really trying to push myself, that, you know, for younger players that would work to help increase their conditioning and endurance, but for me, there is no endurance to push. There is no ability to push. It would just be wearing me out. And because I was going so fast, it would be harder for me to recognize what I did either wrong or right. So come out here, you know, if you're gonna shoot around, have a plan, have fun, you know, enjoy this, but there's definitely a way to enjoy it while at the same time making progress, getting better, you know, understanding what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right, and understanding, you know, what you want to do, what you want to work on, how you're going to do it, and how it's going to benefit you. If there's a way to do all that, bring that all together and actually make progress out here while shooting around, other than just wasting time and getting some shots up. Hopefully you guys can get to the point where, like, you know, like that shot right there, right? I made that because I had bad shooting form, but I had bad shooting form because it all started from my legs, right? I got lazy with my legs, didn't have power and control on my jump, tried to compensate with my arms instead, and that brick is what you get, right? Hopefully you guys can get to that point where you're like, okay, here's what I did wrong, right? And thus here's how I'm going to try to improve in the next rep that I put up. You see what I mean? Like, you know, back when I was an active player, if I was intermediate, not only would finishing at the basket be automatic, but my dribble was also automatic because that's where I started my game with, right? Now it's like, you know, it's weird. It's like this disconnect from your body, right? Like you put certain moves together and you expect certain stuff to happen, but because there's a lapse and a gap between your mind and your body, you know, I'm messing up, you know, dribble moves that if I were an intermediate active player would just be automatic. Travel. Bang. Nope. Shoot. Also, there is a way, you know, when you're shooting around, you can also use it, and hopefully you do to a certain degree or extent, where you can use shooting around to help with your sort of lung capacity, VO2 max, and your conditioning, you know. So, you know, it'd be the opposite of what I'm doing, which is like taking 2 or 3 minutes between each shot and resting. You know, if you were really pushing yourself from a conditioning standpoint, it would just be continuous shots, right? Be like, chase the ball down. You know, when you get the ball back in your possession, do everything you can to have the best form possible to execute whatever move you're about to execute. But, you know, whenever there's a rebound, or even if you make the shot, chase the ball down and immediately put up another kind of shot, you know. Doing so will work on your conditioning. You know, it'll help. It's the closest thing you can do outside of actually drilling and working out. You know, putting actual structured workouts together. If you're trying to work on conditioning and VO2 max and you're breathing, then yeah, you should be really stringing shots together as much as you can until you get to the point where you notice like you really do need to take a few seconds break to compose yourself and let your lungs catch up and your heartbeat slow a little bit, and let your body, your muscles, give them enough of a break so that they can start executing well again. But you know, you want to get to the point where you can put up 5, 6, 7 shots in a row before you actually have to take any kind of a break. And you know, that's usually going, you know, 80% speed and explosivity, if not more so than that. And then of course, if you're just young and fresh and you're already in great shape, then you can put up dozens of shots before you have to sort of take any kind of rest or any kind of break. But even if that's the case, where you're just continually going, that's great, because it frees up your mind to think about, okay, well, I don't ever have to stop moving. I don't ever have to take a break. So, you know, now you're continuing to plan, okay, next shot, next shot, next shot. What am I going to do? Why? How is it going to benefit me? If you're like me and you're, you know, out of shape and you don't have that sort of mind-muscle connection anymore, or you're a beginner and you're only starting to build it, it gives you sort of time in between each shot to sort of think about, okay, what am I going to do and how am I going to do it? But ideally, you do want to get to a balance of like, okay, you don't have to take 16 shots in a row without ever taking a break. That's kind of excessive. You can do that and that's fine, but you also don't want to do it the way I'm demonstrating in this video, which is like taking 2 and 3 minutes between each shot. Because again, you want to make use of your time. You know, you want to get to the point where you have a balance of like pushing yourself while at the same time not just mindlessly putting up shots. So usually the way I don't like to be out here for 45 minutes just sort of shooting around. If I am going to shoot around, then I try to cap it to 20 or 30 minutes, keeping track on my watch and whatever. But when I do get done, for me, there's a process that I go through when I'm working towards actually starting to shoot around. I did all the leg swings and the free throws and the 3-point shooting before I actually started shooting around. I like to do the same thing kind of in reverse when it comes to ending, my shooting around session out here. So usually what I will require of myself is I have to make some kind of a shot, and when I make that shot, it has to feel good coming off my hand. Like I did it properly, I didn't get lucky, the ball did exactly what I intended it to, the way I intended it to do it. So, before I can sort of start my, cool down routine. Usually for me, that means making some kind of jump shot that would normally be difficult for me to make in a game. So it'd be like one of these curl shots. Oh no. Of course that would happen. So I don't have another ball with me, and I don't have anything heavy to throw up there other than these shoes. It was weird. I was, I would usually cut this part out of the video, but I was out here the other day, and something similar happened. I think it was on the other side of the rim though that it happened, but there was kids down here on the other side of the court, and they were shooting around. They looked at me like I had two heads when I went down and asked them if I could borrow their basketball for a minute so I could throw it up and get my ball out. But they were young. They were, one, like there was 3 of them. One was, the oldest was maybe 14, The others were 10 and younger, right? So they looked at me weird when I was like, hey, can I borrow your ball? I guess it's never happened to them before, but it's just a matter of time. They're young. This doesn't usually happen to me either. It didn't happen to me very often when I was an active player, but it happens. Still weird to me that people would challenge me to play one-on-one. I don't see the benefit of it. I don't see it for them. I don't see it for me, It's like, you're supposed to challenge people that are better than you so that you can ascend above them, theoretically. But like, I'm not above you. Why would you challenge me? Is that, I guess, would that be the equivalent to like basketball bullying? Like, challenging someone who's worse than you so you can beat them and make them look bad? I don't, it's just weird. It's weird to me. Shoot. That wasn't supposed to happen. So, yeah, the way I end things, the way I get to my cool down is requiring myself to make a shot that would usually be, that in a game, in competition with an opponent in my face, a shot that would be difficult for me to make. Okay, so we cut off again. If any of you guys, any of you YouTube camera guys can explain this to me. My camera keeps stopping recording at like half an hour for some reason, which I don't remember I don't remember doing that before, but also I don't usually record for a half an hour straight before. I'm using a Canon M50. I don't know, I don't think there's like a setting that's making it do that. I mean, I'll look at some point and see if there is, but I don't know why it's stopping. Anyway, like I was saying, going through this process of trying to finish up the day and get to my, what I would consider a cool down, which is like the reverse of what my warm-up would be. Before I allow myself to start my cool down, I have to hit a shot. I require it of myself. A shot that would normally in an actual game and competition for me to be difficult to hit. So usually that's some kind of a three-point shot or one of these like curl kind of shots. And unfortunately, I already hit it after the camera stopped recording. So, oh well, let's do it again. And you know, usually when I was intermediate, I would do the exact same thing, but hitting that difficult shot as an intermediate player would usually be much more, you know, quick and easy for me. But like the younger, newer you are, or the older and broke down you are like me, hitting these shots can, you know, sometimes, you know, if I'm having a good day and I'm feeling good, like, you know, I wouldn't say I'm feeling good today, but at least I'm not feeling nearly as like tight and, you know, weak as I do sometimes. Or probably at this stage, it's probably the majority of the time that I actually do try to do any kind of structured workout here. You know, hitting that final shot to give myself permission to start the cool down is, sometimes you hit it quickly, but the norm for me, and probably the norm for like a newer kind of player who's starting to build their game, if that's the approach you take, it can add 20-25 minutes on to, you know, the end of your game and the end of your day. And like I said, I usually cap my shooting around time at 20 to 30 minutes, but I do allow for the real possibility that when I go to end that session, hitting that one final shot could possibly add 20-25 minutes onto that session. So when I did hit the curl right there, felt good. Could have been better, like I could have exploded more and had more power and explosiveness, but it still felt good when it came off my hand. It still felt like it was going to go in, and the ball essentially did what I wanted it to do, even though I didn't have the power and the explosiveness that I should have had. The ball still went off my fingertips and everything the way I wanted it to, so I'm going to count that. And then my cool down would be this free throw that I just made. And then it's usually like a layup each hand. So that felt good. Don't have to repeat that. Other hand. That felt good too. Now the only thing I would leave for myself, and there is no like good reasoning why, it's just, you know, a habit and a routine that I developed decades ago, was like, all right, well, my last shot's gonna be top of the key. Don't know why. I'm not a three-point shooter. I have no specific reason as to why I end the day with this, other than, you know, when my friends and I, or, you know, back in the day, when we would shoot for teams, when we're trying to decide who's going to be on a team, or shoot for captains, we'd usually shoot top of the key to do that. That's probably really the only real justifiable reason I could come up with why I practice this shot, probably more so when it comes to warm up and cool down than any other shot. And the reason I practice it most is because it takes the most reps before I actually make it the way I want to make it. And at this point, it's like, this is the reason I consider this cool down is because, the pressure's off. I'm not pushing anymore. I'm just focused on that one particular shot at a time, trying to execute it properly. And really, that's the only pressure that's left. And because I know, like, okay, that was the last shot of the day, there is this sort of pressure of like, okay, if I make this shot, I get to go home or whatever. That's supposed to be a good thing. But it can become a matter of perspective. Like, okay, if you're in a hurry to get home and you're trying to make this shot so you can leave and go home or whatever, then double-edged sword, right? The more pressure you put on yourself, the tighter you might get, more anxious, and then you just miss and miss and miss. Whereas hopefully you can flip that and your perspective becomes, okay, last shot, I've kind of earned this last shot, no pressure, I can relax even though I'm still trying to execute properly. Mentally, if you're mentally relaxed, hopefully you get to the point where like, okay, it's no pressure, get the shot up properly, easy shot, and you can go home. Like, if I were out here, if I was really trying to press and make improvement and for whatever reason, and I was like, okay, gotta make this last shot, putting that pressure on myself, I would probably have to shoot that ball a dozen times before I would make it. But being like out here, no pressure, it's like, all right, comfortable yet without getting lazy. I'm still going to execute properly, but there's no real pressure. I made it, second or third shot that I put up. So that's shooting around with a purpose.
Rim ain't a wishing well, it don't grant luck. Reps without a reason, just a pickup truck. Going nowhere fast, engine sputter and choke. Your game's a blank canvas, man, pick up the stroke. Baseline to baseline, footwork gotta sing, no sloppy steps. Yo, they lead to nothing. Flick that wrist crisp, let the arc kiss the sky. A strategy in hand keeps the dream alive. Blueprint in the brain, vision in the soul. You can't freestyle life, gotta set that goal. Bounce to the beat, but don't bounce aimless. Structure breeds greatness, man, it's stainless.